And now, Hangar 56 Media presents Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
Hot chocolate, everyone's a winner. I remember being in my sister's room with my brother, the three of us, watching this little 45 go around and listening to this song come out. That guitar at the beginning. Listen to that again. Hold on here. Listen to that. Right here. This is why I played guitar. It was right after I played this song. And I said to the music guy, Art Barnes, right there. So hear that little buzz? How do you get that sound? And he said, fuzz tone, brother. Fuzz tone. Happy SCR Day, everybody. SCR Day. It's good to be with you. We have Franz von Holzhausen from Tesla on today. We'll be talking to him in a minute. We had a wonderful collectingcars.com cars and coffee with Chris Harris and Edward Lovett. Those guys are amazing. We love them, not just because they are the signature sponsor of Spike's Car Radio and sponsor every single episode this year. Every single one. But because they're cool. I mean, who doesn't like that? This is one of the few guests that my son actually wanted to meet, Chris Harris. Didn't care for Edward Lovett. Didn't know who he was. He's a nice enough chap. But boy, those guys are amazing. And Edward was out there running the cars and coffee on Sunday at Bluey's. They had 4 or 5 times the amount of cars than they had for the last one. And that's many, many thanks to the Spike's Car Radio listeners here in LA and California and for showing up. It was super fun. I feel like I must, before we bring out Franz, talk about this Tesla pronunciation, because it came up again, if you recall, in the Chris Harris Lovett interview. They both said Tesla. They said Tesla in the interview, and I let it go a few times because I don't know those guys that well, and I didn't want to be rude, but I thought if they say it again, and then they said it again, and I said, isn't it Tesla? Isn't it Tesla? And then you could see the expression on their face that they were worried that they were pronouncing it wrong. And I was worried I was just calling them out, and I was wrong. And they said they didn't know. And, I left that interview and I went home and I found a really interesting clip I want to play for you guys here. It's Elon Musk being interviewed by Leslie Stahl. December 7th, 2018 is when it was posted here on Facebook. But it was that long ago, where she asked him directly, how do you pronounce the name of your company? Here it is right here. Here's the clip from 60 Minutes. Leslie Stahl, Elon Musk himself weighing in on the pronunciation of his company.
Do you say Tesla instead of Tesla?
I say Tesla.
You say both, okay.
Tesla? I think I'd probably say it with a slight Z sound. Or I never haven't thought about it. I say Tesla, yeah.
Yeah, you say Tesla.
It's with a Z, I get sort of a Z-ish sound.
Do you want me to say Tesla? I can't. I'm going to say Tesla.
Well, it's not 2 S's, so it's got to be at least a short S.
Do you say Tesla?
Wow, there it is right there. So, can you make heads or tail of that? Do you understand? He sounds like he said he calls it Tesla, which would mean Lieberman and Chris Harris are correct. And Leslie Stahl just says, stands there and just goes no to the guy who runs the company. I can't say Tesla. It's Tesla. And he says, okay, but just only say it with 1 S. Where does that leave us? I don't know. It sounds like everybody's right and he doesn't care. I guess, Elon didn't start the company originally, and I guess we have to go back even farther to get this answer. So for now, the mystery has not been resolved, which is kind of a bummer. Hey, listeners, this probably won't surprise you, but I've never been a big art guy. I mean, unless you consider bumper stickers works of fine art, no, it's right. I don't have any art. You know what I have? I have blip shift art. That's from the shirts that we make. And I hadn't really considered art investing until I saw a Picasso painting sell for over $100 million in 2021. That's a lot of zeros. Not only that, art appreciation has outpaced the S&P 500 since 1995. So when the market takes a hit, a well-diversified art portfolio might not, which isn't that surprising considering some billionaires have been laughing all the way to the bank and investing in art for centuries. But this would put a smile on your face. Now you, like Jeff Bezos, can do the same thing. I'm talking about investing in blue chip artwork with Masterworks. Masterworks is unlocking the once exclusive contemporary art market so you can add paintings from iconic artists like Warhol and Basquiat and Banksy to your portfolio. And Masterworks is giving my listeners priority access to their newest offerings. Forget the NFTs. Just forget them. Get the real stuff. Get a slice, get a sliver, get a chip of a Picasso or a Warhol. Just go to masterworks.io/spike911. There's a piece of art right there. masterworks.io/spike911. masterworks.io/spike911 and check it out. See all the disclaimers there at masterwork.io/disclaimer and get involved. Buy some art. Make some money. Why let all those billionaires make the money, man? Masterworks is going to help you out. Well, not long ago, I chatted with Franz Holzhausen. Very German name, very American guy from Connecticut. And he is the American car designer and chief designer at Tesla, known for his streamlined, understated aesthetic. Von Holzhausen, his credits include the electric car company's second vehicle, the Model S sedan. He talks about what it was like to launch it. He's also designed the Model X and overseen the Model 3 and my favorite, the Y, and also the upcoming Cybertruck. Did you know he's the guy that was on stage throwing the metal balls at the glass? He tells the whole story to me and to you, and you'll find out what was happening just before then. He's working on the Roadster. He's working on the Semi. He's a really interesting guy. He used to work at General Motors. He went to school here in Pasadena. He even worked on the Saturn Sky convertible and the Pontiac Solstice. And he likes watches, and that makes me like him. And I think you're going to like him too. So here's Franz von Holzhausen of Tesla. And here he is, Franz. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, likewise. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Do you always speak about yourself as us?
Yeah, well, we have a silent partner in the back, right?
It's nice to have you here. And I know, you've listened and you know that I have a Tesla Model Y. And first of all, congratulations. I'm very, very impressed with so much that's going on with that Model Y. I tried to drive it here today, and my wife yelled at me. And I said,
that's a good thing, right? When you guys are competing for a car.
She said, I can't let you take it right now. But I go, but I got the guy. I've got Franz. And then she flipped me off and left. But
it's okay. I would just be looking at all the mistakes that we made. But
yes. Oh, really? Do you think
that's the designer's, problem?
Oh, I understand exactly.
Nothing is ever saying. Quite right.
Right. Well, what would you keep going and doing with that?
I mean, the Model Y is a great car, and I think, we started as carrying over a ton of parts for Model 3, and that was, a really good exercise. And how do you make a different car out of another car? Not just like the old-fashioned badge engineering idea. And I think the results are great, but it could always be a little better.
It can always be improved.
Could the wheels be a little bigger? Could the, roof be a little lower? That kind of stuff. But
I
It serves its purpose. It's a great overall car. It's so functional. I mean, as you can attest to.
I can. So much of the experience was just revolutionary for me, from the ordering of the car on a website to the Spike, my wife. I don't know what it drives like. And I'm like, all right, I'll get you a test drive in Malibu. And you walk in and we go, hey, where are the Ferrisons? They go, okay, that car right over there. And then they just put you in it. There was no, let's get the insurance, let's get the license, your car, driver's license. It was just easy and fun.
I mean, who really ever looks forward to going to a dealer and buying a car, right? You just, the crazy shenanigans you end up having to go through just to purchase something you want. I mean,
she does
insane.
have one suggestion for you.
Okay.
Then we'll start the show. She's like, where's my front facing camera? Because she has trouble parking. She admittedly is not a very good parker, and my wheels can attest to that on all of my vehicles. And she said, if I had that front facing camera.
Well, with the ultrasonics, you shouldn't actually really need it. So, the car beeps and tells you when you're getting close to something. So that should stop her from hitting the garage wall or driving through the door or something.
And that new blind spot, whenever you're putting the car or signaling to change lanes, you've got a nice new update blind spot video that comes
you get
up
the camera view from the side of the car.
This car flips me out. I mean, I love it so much, I realized I had made a mistake in recommending it for her. And it should have been my new thing, not hers. And now I'm in the awkward position of having to borrow it, and I don't like it. But
we have more. In different colors, too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely going to happen. Because, the Model S and the Plaid, Leno got one of the first ones.
Yeah.
And we were out in Malibu, and he goes, where do you see what you got going on here? What do you guys, you're going to love this thing right here. And he took me for one of the craziest drives up Malibu Canyon that I've ever had. And I was in his McLaren F1. I've been in a lot of his cars as a passenger. That car blew my mind.
It's an amazing car. I mean, it's a car that you can cruise comfortably anywhere, go get your groceries, take your kids to school, put your bike in the back and just go for, a beach cruise up a PCH.
Right.
Or you hit the traffic light and there's, a GT2 RS next to you and you can blow them away.
So how do you, I want to, we kind of get out of sequence here. I wanted to start with your whole beginning and the rest of it. And now we're right into the models, but it really is at the forefront of my mind because, I notice these things. We have a lot of listeners in the Midwest and a lot of folks who just don't see this electric car thing coming. And they'll say, I'm not going to do that. I like the smell of exhaust. And I go to the gas station in the winter, blah, 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 with the batteries. But what they fail to see, and what I try to, educate them about, if that's even the right word, is, what I really appreciate is these little steps that you've eliminated from the process of me leaving my house and getting into the car and going. One of the simplest, which is when you sit down, you're ready to go. You don't have to turn the damn thing on.
Yeah, there's no key.
There's no key.
The thing that you bring everywhere with you is actually the key, your phone, right?
So that, I don't know how it works at Tesla or in the whole design, area that you work in and head. Do you guys have meetings about those shortcuts? Like, hey, because for me as a writer in entertainment, I thought, there must be a pitch session for little quick, to make things easier.
The good idea is just arrive in a conversation or whenever, and we think it's a good idea, so we do it.
Right.
But there's no strategy session on okay, how are we going to
how can we
figure out how to do this?
Yeah, how can we eliminate?
It just is common sense, what's the thing that annoys you about something?
There it is.
And sometimes you have a solution immediately. What if we just got rid of that? How would we make that work?
So is there a big board that says things that annoy us? Dealerships.
Dealerships, definitely.
The key, looking for my keys. The inability to control this thing with my phone.
The things that just seem obvious, we just do. The things that, we've gotten so accustomed to dealing with things that are just annoying.
That
every once in a while you sit back and you're like, wouldn't it be great if, We just didn't have to do that.
Right.
Wouldn't it be great if you could just walk up to your car, the handles present themselves, like a little handshake, open the door. In some cases, like the Model X, the door opens for you as if it's a chauffeur opening what a nice, pleasant experience, that you don't have to open the door for your wife. The car does it for you,
Yeah. No, I appreciate.
And you get in and you just put it into gear and you drive. There's no like monkey business of like dealing with keys. And I've basically eliminated keys from my life now, and it's so liberating.
It is. Do you think, now you've worked at other manufacturers, do you find that being at Tesla, it's a lot easier at that organization to absorb some of these new ideas? Like, absolutely. I imagine if you went to Pontiac or...
Well, I was at Pontiac.
I know.
I was at GM with Pontiac.
At Volkswagen, and you said, hey... no more keys.
Yeah.
And we would like it to work this way. And I'd like it to back up with an app. That would be 5 years of bureaucratic BS.
Working through meeting after meeting with stakeholders of X, Y, and Z, and the middle management, and the kind of the chain of command that has to happen, and the legacy of, but this is how we've done it. This is what our customers expect. This is, how things need to go. And we don't have any of that. We cut through the fat. If it's a good idea, we implement it. And, we can course correct as well. I think one of the things you started to touch on, you said, you added that feature for blind spot on, when you put your indicator on, you can see, with the video, what's on the side of the car. But that's one of the things that we do constantly is improve your car, improve your ownership experience. So you buy a car at any state, the UI in the car is constantly improving. We're always making the car better. So it's like one of the first series of cars that actually gets better with age. Mm-hmm. It actually improves over time.
Yeah.
And it's, hard to find that in any new car.
No, it's been said that you guys are the Apple of the automotive industry, and it really operates like that. Like, you get an update every couple of weeks or so, and you get excited about it. When I open the app and I see the updates there, I go, ooh.
Yeah, so do you actually read the...
Here's what I do. I get excited because I see it on my app first, and usually I'm up in my office, and then I'm waiting for her to park that car wherever. Sometimes I'll try to time it out if she's at the Ralph's. If I think I can see her at the Ralph's and she just went in, but it's 25 minutes. That's right. But I don't want to leave her hanging. And then she'll also know that I can see that she's in the Ralph's, which she won't like. So, and then when it comes home, then I get into the car, and then I see what I've got. It's like
What's your most recent favorite feature?
Well, the holiday light show.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't see it. My kids saw it on TikTok, and they came running out. They go, we want to go in the Tesla. I'm like, why? They go, watch this. And they turned it on, and it was really amazing. It's the same way Squid Games came into my house on Netflix. Right. It came via TikTok, and they get excited, and it really speaks to that younger generation that, that it works this way.
But it also says something like, why do cars have to be so mechanical and robotic and just a piece of steel that sits in your driveway?
Right.
Why can't that also be a fun, engaging experience?
Right.
And I think that's what we try to bring as well is, we understand people use their cars for a variety of different things, but it could also be a fun experience.
So how long, the holiday light show, where does that start? How long does it take to execute something like that?
I think it depends. A lot of times those things happen like as a weekend project, maybe from an intern or something that has this idea, and then we show it and like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that.
So the interns came up with that? The elves?
The elves, exactly.
They'll say, hey, I want to turn this, because, even... It's so impressive the way the lights were flickering. You're like, how is this built into that system? Right?
Generally, that's a side project. Somebody has an idea. They take their time, personal time, to go develop it. And when it's cool, we do it.
Could Land Rover do a holiday light show update if they wanted to with the pre-existing, Land Rover?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they couldn't, right?
Yeah, they're just too staid.
They're too staid.
Too proper.
Right. But it seems like the Tesla Model Y came pre-equipped with this VU meter Spencer Gifts.
Yeah.
like, what is that? A circuit in there that does that?
For
for that light show that gives you takes music and translates it into a...
I mean, it's basically doing all the things the car can do anyways. The car has to turn on and off lights. It can play music. So it's just choreographing that all together.
Yeah.
It's just a little,
but out of sequence and flashing them and brightening them.
Yeah, and on Model X, the doors open and flap. And
wow, these interns. I can't believe the interns.
Not always the interns, but sometimes it comes from them.
But amazing that you would listen to an intern.
Well, it's a good idea. I mean,
but how does an intern...
I would listen to a good idea from you if you had one.
Well, I've had a few. I'm not sure they'd work in a car.
But maybe they will.
But how would an intern get to you? I mean, how... I mean,
it doesn't have to go to me. I mean, can come bubble up from anywhere in the company. Where,
right.
And, Elon's really good at, trying to weed out and find the great ideas and then, basically publish it.
Wow. Amazing. Really amazing. What's your journey been like at Tesla? I mean,
when I started
Tesla,
it was in 2008. There was just over 200 people in the company.
That was it.
Quite small. Yeah. And, it was like financial Armageddon was about to happen. So I had walked away from, a pretty decent job. I was, at Mazda, enjoying that. And we had done a lot of really fun stuff, reinvigorating the brand there and, getting people to pay attention to Mazda again. And, I stepped out of that. And because I really believed in a more sustainable future and saw just that the work that I could do could be more if there was somebody that was really focused on sustainability. And these, the OEMs, the big companies were just not. It was a flight of fancy or a little side project or a kind of a marketing thing, but they weren't going to really focus on it, especially back then. But Elon was doing it. So I had an amazing tour of a rocket factory that convinced me, like, wow, if you can do that, then this Tesla thing should be easy.
Did you interview directly with Elon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember? Did he have any interesting interview questions he used?
We just hit it off pretty quickly, and I think I was really intrigued with what he was doing both at SpaceX and at Tesla. Mm-hmm. And I think we've established a great working relationship that over the years has proven itself pretty robust, and we can agree to disagree on some things, but generally we're aligned, and I think you can see the results.
Yeah. We're going to talk about collecting cars right now. CollectingCars.com. They have Ferrari 308 GTB Vetro Resina, one of just 712 fiberglass body 308s built prior to the switch to steel bodies, a timeless design by Leonardo Fevarati for Pininfarina. This low mileage 308 GTB is finished in the original combination of Giallo Fly. Used to have a Dino in that color. It works, retaining its original numbers matching engine and gearbox. It also comes with Ferrari Classiche certification. Expensive. It's been done. They just sold a Chevy Corvette Stingray C2 for $81,000. Temperatures are hitting sub-zero in Ontario, but it will soon feel like summer for the winning bidder of this Corvette. Wow, big numbers. They're still pulling in these big numbers. They're also looking for help. You guys you need a job, you here in Southern California, or maybe even everywhere. It doesn't say where they're looking for new talent. How about joining the record-breaking online auction platform Collecting Cars? Did you have a look at my Instagram post? Did you see who was there? Jensen Button, Chris Harris, the real Zuckerman. There were some legit folks there, some legit cars, and you can be part of it. Collecting Cars has grown 190% since 2021, and this is only set to continue in 2022. While the platform is based on proprietary technology, behind the scenes is a dedicated team of true car enthusiasts. I can tell you that. They all pitch in. If you had seen Edward Lovett, the guy who created the platform, directing traffic at the Bluey's Car Show, you would fall in love with this team. They're actively recruiting talented people for a wide range of roles with a particular focus on consignment specialists. Anyone who thinks they would be a great addition to the team, email jobs@collectingcars.com. Jobs@collectingcars.com. or email your favorite stupid picture of Zuckerman to jobs@collectingcars.com. Collecting Cars, why sell your car anywhere else? No ordinary auction, no ordinary cars. Tell me some of your favorite or most memorable Tesla moments.
I mean, my gosh, the beginning when we were designing Model S, and it's hard to imagine, even now that in 2008 is when Model S was, born, and it's basically the same car. I mean, it's evolved and improved, but stylistically and design-wise, it's the same car. Mm-hmm. But that was a whirlwind project, and we understood that it was intended to be the foundation of the company, mm-hmm. and the success of the company depended on it. And there's a little bit of pressure. I kind of call it the artist's clean sheet.
Yeah,
we had a clean sheet of paper, and it's like, go. And what do you do if you're a writer? You're like, okay, give me some input. I need to.
Well,
what am I writing about?
Can I interrupt and tell you what I would do? I'd start looking and watching content and going, what is my thing like? What is it not like? And, what am I going to quote here, and what's going to inspire me?
Yeah.
Were there cars that you looked back at, or even products that you looked back at, where you thought this Model S has to be in this neighborhood?
Well, not necessarily. I think what I was really looking to do is try to find kind of the character, the soul of it, and like, what does Tesla stand for, and how do we imbue that into the design of the car? And kind of just dwelled on that for a little bit, and this idea of efficiency was predominant throughout the conversations and what we were trying to do. Everything, in order to be successful in an electric car, needs to be efficient on all levels,
Right.
And so I knew that we needed a design that spoke about efficiency, and then try to translate that into something that we could kind of carve, and sculpt. And I thought, an athlete is really a great role model of efficiency on all levels, from input to output. And the result is a physique that you get, by default. And if we can harness something like that, capture this athletic poise and stance and character in a volume of a car, then I think we're onto something. And so that was really kind of the inspiration and the soul of the character behind the idea of Model S. And it has been through all of our vehicles. And, efficiency is just kind of in the background of the character of our cars, as well as, the batteries and the drive units and the cost, et cetera. So.
But where does it start? Do you get out your pencil and start sketching
totally.
ideas?
Got out my pencil, and then, really quickly formed that into a model that translated into this, getting the shoulders and the hips and the proportion right. I'm a big believer in stance and proportion being the true character of the underpinnings of a car. And if you don't get that right, then everything is kind of lipstick on a pig, and you struggle. But we were lucky because we could start really clean sheets. So
did you crumple up any papers and go, oh, this is terrible? Did you do something that looked like
the kind of pressure to get something going quickly forced me and my tiny little team, and in the beginning it was just me, to get something going right away, and believe in it, and just get it right. And I think 14 years later, I think we kind of got it right.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty timeless car. Yeah, we didn't set out to. It's almost, from a designer perspective, how do you create something timeless? It's really, really not the objective. It just happened to happen. I think, and good design can be timeless, but you don't start there saying, "Oh, we have to create that." And I don't think we ever thought, in 2008, looking forward to 2022, that a Model S would still be great looking on the road.
So is the launch event like the premiere of a movie for you?
In a way, it is, yeah. I mean, a lot.
And
of
at what
stuff.
point? But let me just ask you this question: at what point, we throw out content, a bunch of critics get it and weigh in on it a few days before, and then it premieres, right? What's the timeline for you folks? You've got this new Model S, you've got this any new Tesla,
sure,
right? You do you let critics drive them first, or is it just, hey, we're going to do this big Apple keynote speech and introduce it?
We've had a few friends engage in the process, a few times that I think has helped with just making sure we feel like we're on the right path. I mean, we're doing stuff that's generally radically different and new. And sometimes that's hard for people coming in cold to absorb and not understand the rationale behind all of it. But for the most part, that's helped steer us and, hone us and make a better driving car. And so there's a few kind of key people that sometimes we lean on. But for the most part, it's pretty, under wraps, pretty secret, and in a few cases, super secret. And we have fun with that.
And super fun at the launch.
Yeah.
We would be talking about the Cybertruck.
Well, Cybertruck, but also I think Roadster.
And the Roadster, right.
When we debuted the Roadster, it was at a semi event. And those are two disparate kind of mentalities or groups of people. So you're inviting people for a semi-event and then exposing this kind of crazy roadster.
What is the initial moment of success for you guys? What is that, for a film, it's the weekend. Look at the box office of that first weekend, and then it stands the test of time after that.
I think we, in my mind, I feel like when we were... It was the day of the Model 3 event that we were hosting in the studio. We had transformed our design studio into kind of a showcase, the display and the event space. And, we were rushing to get everything done. The cars were still, drying in the paint booth and assembling parts, at the 11th hour. I mean, that's pretty typical. We're we run lean and mean.
Yeah.
And it is exciting. And at the same time, we're starting to see around noon, there's a lineup of people in front of the Tesla stores waiting to put in their orders. And I think, it was crazy. We didn't expect it. So nobody had seen the car. A few tweets of information about what it was going to be, but the assumption that it was going to be a lower cost, more affordable, more easily tangible version of a successful car in Model S was what people are really attracted to, and they couldn't wait to get their hands on it. So I think when we saw these lines that only really ever happened for an Apple iPhone or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Never, ever for a car.
Right.
And I think the night of the event when we were, showcasing it to the world, we had 130,000 orders.
Right.
Sight unseen. And I think at that moment, we're like, we maybe were onto something. And at least that's what I felt in my mind. Yeah.
Well, it's that $100 in. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And then
even still, $100 is $100.
It's a lot of money.
Think about it,
but it's it's
for something you are only in your mind's eye. You imagine what it's going to be, but you've never seen a picture. You don't know the stats. You have no idea what it's going to be. You know a few little snippets.
But it's I remember my neighbor said, he goes, I have an order for 2. And I go, what? He goes, the Model 3. I have 2. Do you want one of them? And they're like, well, why can't I get my own order?
Exactly.
And that becomes the story, and that becomes...
Yeah, and word of mouth. And I think, the Tesla owners are amazing.
Yeah.
And we really believe that if you create a great product and a product that people love, then people really enjoy talking about it.
Speaking of products, let's talk about Raycon earbuds. A lot of people didn't get to make resolutions this year, and you know what? I get it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't still find a way to shake things up. Whether it's switching up your workout routine or going someplace new, whatever you challenge yourself this year with, there's no better way to do it than with a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. I was in the gym yesterday. I was in the Equinox yesterday, and I got there, and I had no earbuds. I left my Raycons at home, and it hurts. That's how much I love them. It hurts. I lasted about 35 minutes. I usually work out for an hour. 30 weights, 30 cardio. Without my Raycons, I lasted 35 just on the bad elevator music that was blasting through that Equinox. And truthfully, because of a couple of juice heads who had their chin diapers around their chin. And I didn't want to get COVID. Anyway, Their everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. There's also awareness mode for when you need to listen to your surroundings, that's what I needed yesterday, so you can take Raycons with you wherever you go with optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit. These earbuds are so comfortable, they will not budge. Important, right? We all know whose earpods fall out of your ears, the more expensive ones. Raycon offers 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery life, and they're priced just right. You get quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands. It's no wonder Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 48,000 five-star reviews. Here's what I have for you, listeners. Right now, you can get 15% off your Raycon order by going to buyraycon.com/spike911. Buyraycon, RAYCON.com/spike911. Microsite. That's buyraycon.com/spike911. Save 15% off on Raycons. And we're back. Okay, we touched on it for a second, but I have to ask you about it because it really was a wild moment in Tesla's history. The debut of the Cybertruck, and that's you on stage tossing the rocks or the metal.
Steel balls of steel.
It's
what it took.
It's a remarkable moment because it appears lots is going wrong in the moment. Like there's a lot going wrong, yet it really becomes another fun moment. I almost think back to the history of Porsche when, they had a pretty good track record for killing some famous people. We killed James Dean, and it just helps their image, right?
Luckily, we didn't kill anybody on stage.
Here are you guys out there having fun on stage, and so that wasn't supposed to happen, right?
It was not.
It was not supposed to happen, nor should anyone expect to be throwing.
But honestly, at the moment.
What are you thinking in that moment?
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
Oh shit! Because the odd part is that we practiced that right before we rolled the truck onto stage. Yeah, I sat back there and threw these things at the window, and it was fine. And bounced back.
What can go wrong will go
exactly.
wrong.
And we had, and it was a very rehearsed kind of situation. We had made sure, I can't tell you how many steel balls I threw at windows, and almost every time we never had an issue. And of course, the one time, right?
Do you think you weakened it in your rehearsal?
I don't know. There's a lot
possible?
Of conspiracy theories.
There are.
Possibly, yeah. I don't know.
Isn't there just a pressure point on all glass that if you hit it perfectly... So wait, in the moment,
so then I was like, let's do it again.
And then you do it a second time
because that was the rehearsed thing. If for whatever kind of we just said backstage right before that, if something goes wrong, do it again because guaranteed the back glass will not break.
So you're
like,
there.
Right, great. So let's prove that it
Is
won't
Elon
break.
Just looking at you going...
Yeah, he's like, oh, fuck. But then I think, he caught it quickly and rolled with it. And
you just owned it.
And then, the funny part is afterwards when you're mingling with the crowd and people in the audience, they're like, oh, it's amazing. The ball didn't go through the glass. Like, how that glass is so strong. Like, if you threw a brick through a normal window, it would have killed me.
Right.
And so... people thought that's kind of what was supposed to happen. And it's, the glass is safer than any other automotive glass and I'm not going to get killed with a brick.
How did you keep the Cybertruck so secret? How did you do that?
I mean, we worked really hard and in our kind of space to keep everything secret. And I think, we have a lot of ways to do that, but, we pride ourselves on our team and being able to keep things under wraps because we understand the importance of it. And we had a lot of NDAs and things like that.
Oh, you do? So yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot of people keeping a very cool secret, right?
Yeah, and it was, in the moment, you could argue that was pretty controversial. It's a pretty radical design on a very staid marketplace. There's a silhouette that exists for what a pickup truck should be.
Right.
And there's a mindset for what it should be, and you have to be body on frame, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And, we challenged all those things and said, well, that's just, legacy information. It's not actually true. You can make a better, integrated frame body architecture and be stronger. And in fact, why, on a truck where the exterior is the part that is the most abused, why is the most delicate element of a car hung onto the exterior of a truck in the paint? So we looked at, well, let's put the kind of the armor, the least delicate thing you can put out there, on the outside, and then hang everything inside. So kind of create an exoskeleton. That's when I was born.
It was upsetting. I remember being upset by it when I saw it.
Yeah.
And it's not like I was hating on it. I was upset. And my brain could not comprehend what I was looking at. And then I remember being out in Malibu and talking to a couple friends of mine who are Tesla guys and going, "We've already ordered ours." He goes, "You don't get it." And I was like, "No, I don't get it. I don't think a lot of people get it. But I get it now." But back then, I remember going, what is this? It really challenges my idea of what a truck was. And the more I started thinking about it, and then, again, my car, I started to go, oh, I get what these guys are doing. We're going to just change the way things work. We're going to have fun. We're going to really upset your idea of what anything is.
But the thing is, like, it goes back to, a first principles approach to something. When you actually kind of unwind, like, what do you really need out of a truck?
Right.
And if you didn't have any idea of what a pickup truck looked like, you came from Mars or something and you didn't know what trucks look like, where would you start? And we take that approach. So we didn't let legacy guide us. We took that first principles approach and said, if you want to achieve these things, what's the best way to do it?
Right.
And, if you want to achieve an armor plating on the outside of your truck, that's, impervious to bullets and dents. And I mean, you can drive into trees or you can't scratch, like all these things that you kind of want out of a truck, like tough character. What do you use? So you use stainless steel because you don't have to paint it. You don't have to worry about scratching it. It's, it's not going to rust. But stainless steel is really hard. So how do you form it? You can't traditionally form stainless steel. So then that becomes part of the character of the design, in that it's only, it's planar sheets that can bend in one direction. And suddenly out of that, you were born with a simplistic overall design principle, which then we had fun with,
Incorporating weapons into the design is what that's my idea for the
next
Cybertruck.
James Bond movie, right?
I want a little door that opens up, and I want to hit those people dicking around in the left lane. That would be how I would add to the Cybertruck. Did you?
Well, the one thing that we did do was like take a real truck or an existing ICE truck out to the range and shoot bullets at it to, just see what would happen. And I'll tell you one thing. Do not stand behind your door when you're shooting back at somebody. All those cop movies where they're hiding behind the door to shoot back doesn't work.
That's exactly right. They go right through it,
yes.
Right? Just like paper.
And then through the seat and through the console and out the other side.
Wow. What kind of weapons were these?
Usually 9mm.
And you did this with the Cybertruck?
Yeah, we shot at the Cybertruck.
Is that going on over in Hawthorne? What do you do?
Not in Hawthorne, although, in the city of Hawthorne, perhaps that's happening. But.
There's a lot of shooting going on around you. Who's going to notice?
Exactly.
Who is going to notice?
Ourselves.
Did you film that?
The
shooting of Cybertrucks? I mean, I would. There's so much. You guys have such a passionate audience that I imagine all of this stuff would end up being fun content and discussion.
You got to wait for the movie.
Yeah. I want to talk about the yoke, which some of my fellow automotive enthusiasts are very upset about. And I couldn't be more pleased and more happy about, my son flies, and I'm down at Santa Monica Airport. And when I saw that, when Leno showed it to me, I really laughed and I said, this is awesome. This is something, again, fun. It may not be as functional in a racing situation if I want to be turning, but...
Although, we've proven it on Nordschleife, so, we've done our fastest laps with the yoke.
You have?
Yeah. And the drivers are fine with it.
And how do you slip that by the DOT? Do they even weigh in on things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most challenging things was dealing with the airbag deployment. Generally speaking, an airbag, when it deploys, it needs a reaction surface. So when your head goes into it, it needs something to counteract that. It's a big balloon, but it needs something behind it. And that's usually the rim of the steering wheel. So we just had to like think about how do we solve that problem, and we did. And I think that was probably the biggest hurdle.
What about?
But it's absolutely safe.
And there's no plans to get rid of it.
No, why would we? I mean,
yeah,
we've made it a component of the car. I think also with the continuing improvement of autopilot and full self-driving, your hands on the wheel becomes less of a thing. The driving experience becomes less relevant in a way, and you can take the menial task of driving away. The car can do it for you. And so that's, it's really preparing for that autonomous driving experience when a big clumsy steering wheel is suddenly in your way. It's a thing that's taking up space.
Let's talk about the Roadster, which is a very exciting car. Where are we at? What's going on?
Yeah.
Catch us up to date on the Roadster.
I mean, we're working on the Roadster. I wish it was, we were working faster, but I have to also say that in the time that we've been developing it, we've also been learning a lot. Like Plaid is a great learning platform that all those experiences will, make its way back into a much better Roadster than had we launched, right after when we debuted it. Just continuous improvement on that. It'll be an amazing, exciting flying machine with the SpaceX package. So, yeah, stay tuned. But it can't come fast enough for no products can come fast enough from us for the public. But rest assured, we're working on it feverishly.
I was going to ask you about flying cars, and I'm not joking. I would bet you guys are thinking about flying cars somewhere. There's an intern somewhere.
In the Roadster instance, it's
going,
not, yeah, exactly right.
Let's start dreaming about a flying car. We've got SpaceX, we've got Tesla, we've got a yoke.
The third dimension is pretty hard to manage.
When you say the third dimension,
well, getting off the roads
yes.
and into the air. You said your son flies, and I'm sure you can attest to that.
It's pretty easy. You just move forward, it goes up.
Yeah. Yeah, put that in the hands of of your wife.
Yeah, well,
my wife.
Yeah,
maybe not so easy.
No,
but in the Roadster instance, I think defying gravity is an interesting idea.
The speed that battery provides is what also this audience, if they've not experienced it, is going to the quickness of acceleration when you want to pass.
Yeah, there's no honestly,
and I mean, forget about Plaid.
Yeah.
Forget even about Plaid. The electric car speed and quickness and the one pedal driving becomes so addicting.
Yeah.
Right?
Instantaneous torque.
You don't throw away the other stuff. You have this new silo and type of driving that I'm telling you, if you're listening, you will absolutely love it. So when you get into the Plaid, or you get into what this Roadster is going to be, and then you look at the price of that when compared to a Pagani or one of these $4 and $5 million cars, and it's faster, right?
Yeah.
And it's got aero. I don't know how you don't make that choice. Right?
I mean, you can argue that with a Plaid right now, and you can just see on YouTube all the videos of racing everything from a Chiron to whatever.
Yeah.
With insane amount of horsepower, and it's a whole event, and to get those cars to even run. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you can just roll up in your Plaid and go. And
that's happening, by the way. It's happened. It happened to me right on Wilshire. I was in a GT2 RS. These kids in a black Model S, window goes down. They go, "Hey, you want to race to the next light?" I go, "Not if that's a Plaid." They go, "Oh, you got us." And boy, they just went like this, boom, and disappeared into the horizon.
Yeah, and they probably had 2 or 3 people in the car too, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so
they were driving around just racing people in GT2 RS.
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's pretty amazing.
I mean, and I think the thing that you don't really experience is how addicting and fun it is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that thrill is something that I think innately we've always, as humans, have been chasing. Like, how do we go faster? And the electric, motor battery combination allows us to do that. So,
what were the cars you loved growing up that you had your eye? Where did you grow up, by the way?
I grew up in Connecticut.
In Connecticut,
kind of in the I don't know, suburban back country, a lot of cows and stuff.
You don't have a name that
No, I
sounds
don't.
like that, do you? Franz von Holzhausen.
It's a pretty German name, yeah.
Pretty German. I thought I would be facing an accent here and a translator today.
Yeah, you're not alone in that.
What are your parents' names?
Frank and Jane.
Frank and Jane?
Yeah.
And so why did they go in this direction with
I
your
think
name?
they had the last name and they thought, the kids need to kind of embody the full German experience where we didn't get it, so we're going to pass it on to them. And it was a challenge in school as a kid. But,
Yeah, no, you grew up in New England especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened there?
yeah. I got out. I moved to LA.
Now, what would they say to you? Like they could turn any name into a derisive nickname.
Oh, yeah.
Even me, and real name is Michael, so it was Mike, ride a bike, ride it down the toilet pipe, and I'd go, any name. But for you, what were they saying to you?
I mean, the easiest thing was Vaughn. Just stick with the Vaughn. So that,
Vaughn.
Yeah. But I had very derogatory things like, Nazi and
Oh, yeah,
Mini Hitler
right,
and those
right.
kinds of things, which are, real fun to deal with.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you're a kid.
Well, Hogan's Heroes was very big back then, so.
Yeah, that's true.
So that could have been where that's coming
Contextually,
from.
That made sense.
Yes.
So, it was not always a great name, but, it was great for filling out the bubbles on the SAT. You could get every bubble filled. And you learn the alphabet really quick when you're a kid.
So you're in Connecticut. I would guess it was a lot like my upbringing where it was all American muscle cars that maybe first caught your eye, or was it?
Yeah, my dad was a designer, so he had, generally kind of cool cars cycling through. He
Was automotive designer or
no, he's a
industrial?
product and graphic designer.
Product and
He had
graphic,
his own
right.
company, and when I was in high school, he had a SC 911 SC, which tried to do the risky business thing.
Kinda like what we have right here
one
today.
over there, yeah. It brought back a lot of memories seeing that car. Luckily, there was no dropping into the lake and having to deal with that, but there was a few close calls. But it was always fun to try to pry those cars away from him. And
So it was Porsches
The cool kid.
that first caught your eye.
he was into BMWs and Porsches, but he had early Mustangs, and one of the first cars that I thought was kind of cool. I still actually own one, is a older Firebird. I don't know where I got that attraction, but I have a 68
Rockford
Firebird
Files?
convertible. Yeah, or I don't know what it was.
They're cool.
Amy Booker. Didn't you drive one of those?
Yes. That's because they're cool. That's
They were
why
cool,
they
yeah.
caught your eye.
Yeah. And then, I was, over the years, I ended up working for GM and so got involved in, the kind of modern muscle, but always with affinity back towards the more classic stuff. So
Right. And it was, am I mistaken? Did you work on the Beetle
yeah, when I
with
got
Freeman Thomas?
with Freeman and Jay Mays, yeah. Freeman was a teacher of mine at Art Center. And then when my first job was at VW, and he became, my boss, and we did, we had a great ride there. It was, really, Craig Durfee was there. He, had designed the Viper, Jay Mays, obviously, Freeman. It was a great group of people to kind of grow up in a design environment.
Yeah, wow,
and
what a group.
Just be, peers and understudies. And it was, looking back, it was super special. And to see where those guys have gone in their careers is amazing. And, I'm just fortunate to have been around that. And we did, the Beetle, which was another super secret project. I think, most of the people at Volkswagen of America had no idea that this project was even going to happen. And
Really?
there it was suddenly, and they saw it for the first time on the Detroit Auto Show stand.
Wow.
Going, oh my gosh, what is this? But, I think that project kind of reinvigorated Volkswagen in their design, direction. And you can see the results of that over time. Then I went to General Motors, and, that was a complete change of pace. And my, somewhat naive thinking was like, I can make a change here. I can make a dent, and try to bring good taste to, arguably a lot of mediocre stuff. And we, I got involved in some really cool projects. One of the first projects was the Pontiac Solstice, and that's right when Bob Lutz joined. And so I was fortunate enough to work directly with Bob on this kind of another super secret little project that we debuted really fast. Like it was a 4-month project from zero to hero.
That's your
kind of
fast
thing.
track.
yeah, I just kind of got into that grain. And, I think from a spontaneity perspective, you have an idea, you germinate it quickly, and you go.
Right.
And, been somewhat successful at that.
How do you feel like the direction of the automotive industry in general? Like, again, I'm going to keep going back to this analogy in entertainment because it seems like we have the linear networks and then we have Hulu and Netflix and the streamers where everything's happening. It happens fast, and that's where all the cool stuff is.
I think it's very similar
right?
to that. There's a lot of kind of incumbent stuff that, with the legacy, all the big OEMs, they just are set up. Their success depends on what they've invested in for the past 100 years. And unwinding that is just got to be... I don't know how they do it. And they obviously don't know how to do it either.
Yeah.
So change for them is really hard.
It's going to be very, very hard. It's going to be hard. I mean, I talk about, even, Mercedes, our Model Y came in on the day I had a Maybach press vehicle. And I got out of the Maybach that was bells and whistles and lights and switches, half of which I don't know what they do, and there were at least 50 of them. And I sat down in the Y, and there was nothing except this directional and nothing in front of me. And I felt ripped off for a second, and then I felt relaxed. And I was relaxed because I don't have to think about all of these switches and decisions I don't want to have to make. I'm simply just going to drive the car. And that right there, and the software, I thought these folks, they're going to have a really hard time
to me, some of that is a little bit of just layering on more things to kind of distract you from the inefficiency of the baseline product.
Right.
And we just make sure we don't do that.
Right. I mean, I don't want to look at my temperature or have choices of interior lights foisted upon me.
We want the car to learn you.
Yeah.
And therefore, we're constantly working on improving that so that you don't have to go and select a temperature. It just understands the situation, the ambient temperature around you, kind of what your preferences are, and tailors itself to
and the simplicity of the app. When I open the app, the same thing. I'm not going down channels of information I don't need or want. It's all just right there for me.
And it's a ton of information, and we work hard on figuring out what is the right information to present to you.
Right.
So that things, the most obvious things are a single click away, or they're happening autonomously for you.
Yeah. And the simple notion of where we're at as a culture, we want everything to work off our phone. The whole operation works off your phone. You can order the damn thing. Yeah. You can get it delivered. Yes. You can start it. You can bring it in for service. You can pay for that service all over the phone with that app.
But it doesn't mean that you don't have to sit at home in front of a computer to do that. You can be anywhere.
Oh, if you knew how grateful I was not to be sitting on the other side of a desk waiting for a service advisor.
And then going into the back
room.
And
the printer and the click, and let me take a little holes off the side. They just said, here it is. It's already paid for. It's done. All right, a couple more questions, then I'm going to let you go. Who came up with open butthole? You say open butthole, and the little charger door opens up. Is that an intern?
That was not me. I don't know who came up with that.
You don't know who came up with it?
Maybe Elon.
It really makes me laugh when I do it.
But again, it's adding a little sense of humor to something that we interact with all the time. Why not? Why does it have to be a cold robotic machine?
Look, I've been very grateful to have things that make my kids laugh when they don't want to get in the car and go for a ride. From fart sound effects.
Do they do this fart sound effect?
Oh, of course.
They probably love to do it for your wife, right?
They rename the car. Yeah. Its current name is Big Chungus for some reason. And
are they using the microphone and talking to their friends and neighbors outside the car?
Non-stop.
At traffic lights.
Yeah. My wife doesn't understand that stuff, but the drive to school is a really funny production. Yep. Am I right? Someone told me that your wife made the original interiors for these cars.
No, we worked together on a couple of GM projects.
Oh.
She has her own business. She does sustainable accessories and materials. So,
what? How about is Tesla going to open up their superchargers to everyone?
That's the plan, and I think there's some pilot ideas about that happening. So,
but where do you see? This is, I think, a broader electric vehicle question. Most people in my life make the decision to buy a Tesla because of the charging network.
Sure.
right? The supercharging network. Whether they're going skiing or they're driving somewhere out, they're comforted by the fact that these Tesla superchargers
are everywhere.
Are everywhere, right? And I've seen them make a purchase decision based on that. Obviously, as we all pivot and all of these major brands pivot into electric, how does that work? Like in the rest of the country, California and New York are a little different. How does it work?
We have superchargers across the country. You can drive coast to coast, north to south,
But what happens to the country? Do gas stations suddenly turn into electric charging stations? Do we have 76?
Wouldn't that be a great end result? I think that's kind of our mission, and we know that we can't necessarily do it alone. And if other people want to become involved in the mission and make a more sustainable planet, get rid of our addiction to fossil fuel, then great. That's ultimately what we're chasing, is a sustainable outcome. So the faster we can do that, the better off our society is, the planet is, et cetera. So, we should do everything we can to get everybody involved in, going electric in transportation.
I was on a ski lift in Tahoe, and my teacher, Scuba Steve, I call him, said my son has
a ski teacher whose name is Scuba
I just call him Scuba Steve. It's probably insulting him, and I don't even know it. But he said my son has a job in electric cars, and I said, "Oh, that's amazing," because he knows I have the podcast. He goes, "He's working on solar electric cars." What was he talking about? Is that a real thing? Would there be a car that would have solar panels?
I believe there's definitely people that are looking at that. I believe there is a car company that is working on that. I don't know how real it is at a kind of a true mass production scale. I think as the PV, the photovoltaic cells become more efficient and can harvest basically more energy per area, the reality of being able to apply those to a car becomes more real. I think right now it's somewhat cost prohibitive to do that, but it's changing quickly. So I think there's a future where you can get some level of charging for your car from the sun, and until then we'll put the solar panels around superchargers, so that becomes kind of a free situation. I think the obvious thing is if you own a home, to put solar and battery storage, power walls on your house, and then you're generating your own energy for your house and for your car. I do that at my house, and that combined with Starlink meant that when Malibu shut down on Thanksgiving Day, I was still going. I could watch the games and cook the turkey.
Is that where you live?
Yeah.
What do you drive?
Right now I drove a Plaid here.
Oh.
But I have a Model 3. I have a vintage Model S.
A vintage Model S?
Yeah. An early one.
Do you have a collection of cars outside of Tesla?
I have a few cars.
Yeah. You're not driving around in some sort of dune buggy, are you?
No, but oddly enough, I
Malibu.
learned how to drive in a Myers-Manx dune buggy that my best friend, he lived across the street. When we were, 12 and 13, we were rebuilding his dad's Porsche 356 motors. He had a couple of them, and he used to rallycross in upstate New York. But we took one of those motors and put it in his Myers-Manx. And
wow,
when I was 13, we'd push the car out in the middle of the night and drive down the street so we wouldn't wake up our parents. And yeah.
Wow, and that was it.
Fun. Yeah.
Did you really learn how to shift gears in that car?
Yeah, shifting gears, driving. We rebuilt the motor in the cold, snowy winters.
Wow.
On his bench in his basement, and I talked to Freeman and Philip and with those guys, and I'm like, I learned to drive on your car.
It's a very cinematic moment. The middle of the night.
Yeah.
The guy who's going to design cars that are going to change the world.
You got in trouble a few times, but
If you're not getting in trouble in New England, son, you're not growing up in New England. Yeah, that's just what happens there.
Had to run away.
Yeah. I ran from the cops once. That's where I learned not to run from the cops. But I thought, God, I've got this Honda Accord and it's got 5 gears and I can beat this cop. Well, I did not beat him. Didn't beat him. By the way, beautiful watch. You're wearing a vintage Daytona 6263.
Yeah.
The second you walked in, I noticed it.
Wow.
I've been jonesing for it.
Laser beam eyeballs.
Do you collect watches as well?
A little bit. I have some, fun ones, but
Yeah. What do you like? We have a lot of...
this one I love. It's a great watch. I have some lesser ones. I actually wear I hate to say it, but the Apple Watch just because of the fitness thing side to it. Otherwise, I haven't really found much purpose for that thing other than the fitness part, but so be it.
It's got to have purpose.
Yeah.
The products in your life.
Some tags, submariners, those kinds of things.
What do you have? Are there products that you just look at, outside of the car world that you just go, God, I love this thing? Aside from Apple products, what other design do you go, oh my God?
The sad part about Apple products now is there's nothing to look forward to.
Right.
I feel like it's just a continuation. It's just kind of a slight refinement on the same thing. So inspirationally, it's been hard to get, super motivated by what they're doing.
What's the last thing you bought though you did like the design? When you came home and you went, look at this pepper grinder. It's really...
Peugeot actually makes cool pepper grinders, and that's kind of...
Who does? Peugeot?
Oh, yeah, I think that's where they started, actually.
It must be really hard to buy you stuff. Your wife must panic because of
she could buy me a car.
She could?
I like cars.
You like cars, yeah. Well, I imagine she could if you were in a Tesla at the very beginning. Right, Richard? Yeah. You got in at the right time, my friend.
Well, it was a little bit of a leap of faith. All my family and friends were like, what the fuck are you doing? You're screwing up your career. But I was like, you know what? This is the only company that's really focused sink or swim on making a sustainable impact into a really bad situation with transportation. And, they didn't have the conversation with Elon, but I did. And I really believed in it. And I thought, as a designer, this is going to be the closest I can get to have some sort of impact to change our world. I'm not a doctor, I'm not saving lives necessarily, but our vehicles do save lives because they're the safest cars on the road. And we pride ourselves on getting there. But from a overall sustainability perspective and saving the planet, I took that wholeheartedly and went in 100%, knowing that here's the opportunity, do it or...
Every big talent has that story, that moment where you just jump and your friends go, what the hell are you doing?
Exactly.
And you're taking the risk that's going to change your life.
I mean, it hasn't been a walk in the park, but it's been a really fun experience to date. And I believe that, we're, as a brand and as a company, we're just in our infancy. We have a lot more to come, a lot more amazing, cool things on the horizon. And hopefully we're making an impact.
All right, tell us one secret. One secret that you have about it. Oh, I'm joking. Franz, this has been great.
Thanks
As a new Tesla fan, I'm very excited that you've come on the show.
Please tell me what we can do to improve the product as well.
I'm so pleased with the Model Y. There's nothing I would change right now about it. I'm very, very happy. I'm excited for to move into the next level of assisted driving. That I'm very excited about. But the car has really exceeded my expectations. As far as I like to evaluate things as how does it integrate into my lifestyle.
Sure.
And it's just one of those vehicles that does everything right. Right. And even the simple little things like, I've got too many kids.
Right.
I got a third row. You have a third row in there. It's simple stuff like that. And for me, it's these little moments of control I have with the app. This morning, I experienced one where I was disconnecting it from the charger for my wife. And I had forgotten that I had programmed on these 5 days of the week, I want the car to heat up. And it was kind of cold this morning. It was just nice and warm. And it's that makes you love this thing. Yeah. It takes care of you, right? And it gives you that control to take care of you. And it's thinking about you. There's no other car that does that.
No, I agree.
Nothing that I've driven that does that.
It's really hard to communicate to somebody who doesn't either believe in electric vehicles or believe in... that it could be a great experience until you have those moments. Yeah. Until you kind of experience that just little kind of pleasure situation and you can say that to your audience, right? Or to friends.
Yeah.
But until they actually experience it, they're like, wow, now I get it. You know?
Exactly. I like to say it's all of you who said, I'm never going to get an iPhone, and now you have 3.
Exactly.
That's what you're avoiding. The future is coming at you fast. And
future's here.
And yeah, it's here. And Tesla's leading the way. Franz, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll see you next week on Spike's Car Radio.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio, brought to you by Hangar 56. Listen to new episodes every Wednesday, and be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.